Hello, hello, hello. It's time for our weekly Big D football chat with Alex. Before I bring in Alex, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can not only see yesterday's tidbit on the Von Miller trade, but see all my football, baseball, soccer, betting, DFS, or whatever content you want. And also check out the Big D podcast on Spotify and Apple. So usually we record on Mondays, but this week we are recording on a Tuesday. So joining us from the other side of the state is Alex.
How are you doing? As always, nice to be here. Nice to be back. Got a little bit of a different day. We did a Monday last week. We did a Thursday last week. We're doing a Tuesday this week. You never know what to expect when it comes with us.
Then it's surely going to be a Saturday podcast coming, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So there have been big news stories, trades, all kinds of stories. But to me, one of the biggest headlines from the week 8 slate was Titans star running back Derrick Henry suffering a foot injury and now will be out several games. Been placed on IL, but when you found out about the Derrick Henry injury, A, what were you thinking? And B, what was your fantasy team thinking? Because you've got a ton of Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd like to say my first thoughts were thoughts and prayers to Derrick Henry, but I was a little selfish. I immediately went to my fantasy team to see what my backups were going to be for the rest of the year. But it sucks. I mean, Derrick Henry is the absolute, without a question, number one running back in the NFL, whether it's fantasy or in regular life. I mean, we have not seen a running back like Derrick Henry since, I don't know. I mean, Jim Brown, maybe. He's a one of a kind running back. He's absolutely a joy to watch play football. And I think one of the football players that you every fan of the NFL would not want to see get hurt, because he's just such a fun football player to watch. I mean, throwing football players to the ground like they're high schoolers. I mean, it sucks for the Titans offense. It sucks for NFL fans everywhere, and it sucks for my fantasy team. But yeah, it's really definitely disappointing to hear about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so how do you think Derrick Henry's absence affects the Tennessee Titans? Because when I think of Tennessee's offense, I think of Derrick Henry and AJ Brown. So now you take away the best running back in football. And obviously, I don't care who you bring in. I mean, the Titans brought in Adrian Peterson, but he's 36 years old. He's not going to be the lead back like he was in Minnesota. So do you think this is going to be more Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown, which hasn't been bad the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, no, AJ Brown's definitely been stepping it up lately. I mean, you have to think it only makes logical sense that Tennessee is going to be throwing the ball some more. Obviously, that offense ran through Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill is a capable quarterback. AJ Brown, obviously he's had an up and down year this season, but he's got the talent to really lead an offense. And Julio Jones, I mean, Julio Jones has been frustrating me all season just because I've got a couple of shares of him in fantasy. When you draft Julio Jones in fantasy, he's going to miss a couple of games, but you expect in the games that he plays that he's gonna step up for you. Hasn't quite been the case for him, but Tennessee is they're needing people to step up. Obviously, they've got, what's his name? When you've got a Derrick Henry in your backfield, backups don't really matter. So I think his name is McNichols, I think, is their
Henry,
backup running
like
back.
Henry McNichols or something.
Yeah, something like that. He's been a popular waiver wire ad, I think, this week. But I think they're not done bringing people in. Obviously, you said they got Adrian Peterson. Didn't do too great with Detroit in his last stint. Obviously, he's getting older.
Jeremy McNichols, sorry.
Jeremy McNichols, there you go. Adrian Peterson's getting older. He's very clearly not the running back that he once was in Minnesota, where he was the unquestionable best running back in the league for a long time. But I think they're going to make another move. It's trade deadline day, so whether they trade for a guy or there's plenty of running backs out in free agency that they could pick up. I think they're definitely not done addressing that position. I mean, if the Baltimore Ravens can bring in 3 veteran running backs to cycle in, I'm sure Tennessee can pick up another guy or two. So, like we said, I mean, I definitely think that they're going to start leaning on Tannehill a little bit more. I think Tannehill's a guy who can handle that responsibility. I mean, he's a good passer. I wouldn't call him a lead or anything, but he can get the job done, especially with some weapons, and definitely bring in a couple extra bodies in the backfield.
And obviously, like Sunday night's game against LA was going to be very difficult. But you know what? With Mike Vrabel, I think he's a really smart, really adaptable head coach. I think the Titans will be fun. I'm fine. And you look at it, Tennessee may be in the right division where they can keep the ship floating with Derrick Henry, and then you get him back in December, January, and let's face it, I don't want to tackle Derrick Henry when the weather gets cold, but you get a fresh Derrick Henry for the playoffs.
Yeah,
Yikes.
that's a great point, Dylan, because I mean, in that AFC South, it's a whole lot of nothing behind Tennessee. I mean, Indy's the closest rival to 3-5. I mean, they had a terrible start this season. They turned it around a little bit, but they're not threatening Tennessee even without Derrick Henry for that division title. So
and Tennessee's already got in the tiebreaker because they beat Indy home and away. Indy home and away.
Yeah, so I mean, Tennessee's all but locked up first place in the AFC South. So it's just, and like I said, I mean, you made a great point. Obviously, you don't want Derrick Henry to get hurt, but if it's going to happen, you'd rather it happen now with an opportunity for him to rest, to heal, get some ice baths in, relax his body a little bit, and bring him in. Maybe the timetable is still a little murky right now, but if you can get him for your first playoff game or even win a playoff game, get him back for the second playoff game, like you said, you got a well-rested Derrick Henry. That sounds like a scary sight for AFC teams in January or in December or January. So, it's not a great situation for Titans fans, but it's definitely not a our season is doomed situation for Titans fans.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe Ryan Tannehill could run the ball. I mean, he used to play wide receiver at Texas A&M. Maybe he could run the ball and catch the ball. I mean, Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown pass to himself in a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, Tannehill's fully capable of running the rock. I mean, I remember in his time in Miami, we had many different designed run plays for Tannehill, whether it's a read option, whether it's just a boot out. I mean, Tannehill is definitely athletic. Obviously, everyone I think at this point knows he played receiver for Texas A&M, but he's an athletic guy. He runs hard. He's definitely not. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be like your go-to guy for running the ball. But I mean, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, or just like an option player or a scramble. I mean, he can definitely get the job done on the ground. All right, but let's move on a little bit. There was a football game this weekend. Actually, not quite this weekend. It was Sunday night. Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings. We got a little bit of a, Dak Prescott was game time decision. Not a lot of people are quite sure if he was going to be able to play this week. Turns out he wasn't. And how did his replacement do, Dylan?
Well, let's see. Usually the big statement with the Dallas Cowboys is, how about them Cowboys? Well, after Sunday night's win against the Vikings, it's how about them Coopers?
Yeah.
Because Cooper Rush in his first NFL start looked better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Rush was unbelievable in that game. 24-40, 325, 2 touchdowns against a really well-coached Viking team on the road in a hostile environment. And the nobody gave the Cowboys the prayer to win on Sunday night when they heard Dak was out. I mean, the line switched from like Dallas being a 4-point favorite to Minnesota being a favorite, and Dallas won by 4.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes Vegas originally knows what they're talking about. I guess with Dak going down, they were wrong on that one. And I think a lot of the country was. I don't think a lot of people expected Cooper Rush to have the performance he did, but credit to him, credit to Amari Cooper. I mean, 8 for 22, touchdown.
8 for
CD
122.
Yep. CD Lamb had a good day as well, going over 100 yards. I mean, the Dallas offense is good. I mean, we were concerned about the Dallas offense coming into the year just based on Dak's injury, and if CD Lamb would step up, he's a young receiver. It was time for him to make that step. I mean, he has talent, but he's got to step into a solid number 2 behind Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper had a little bit of question marks around him this offseason too. So that Dallas offense is definitely here to play. I mean, Cooper Rush stepped in for Dak Prescott, had a great football game, and they ended up moving on to 6-1. So I mean, you can't really ask for anything better than that if you're the Dallas Cowboys, sitting with a 5-1 record. Your starting quarterback goes down, and you bring in a guy who's able to get you the victory. So obviously, the one disappointing thing I think for the Cowboys is Diggs not quite being able to continue his interception streak, but I mean, the man's still having an amazing season. It's just, I'm sure he wanted to keep that streak going for another game.
I think I'll take a win over an interception any day of the week.
Absolutely, but pretty cool stat going 7 games in a row with an interception in the first 7 games to start the season. I mean, I remember Miami fans were ecstatic when Xavier Howard was doing it a couple years back, and looks Diggs is on track to pass his double-digit interception score. So other than that, I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks coming in, stepping up when the team needs them. A couple quarterbacks who came in and made a difference this week. I mean, who do we go to? Let's go to, I mean, probably the biggest upset of the week, I think. The New York Jets going in there, first game of the career for his quarterback, and they take down the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you think of that game?
I was thinking, first off, everybody's eliminator is screwed because Cincinnati lost. And secondly, I can't believe I'm saying this. Is Mike White better than Zach Wilson?
Maybe. I mean, if he plays like he did this week, then absolutely he's better than Zach Wilson.
I mean, 37 of 45, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns. I heard a stat, I'm not sure if it's 100% true, that Mike White and Cam Newton are now like the only 2 quarterbacks to have a 400-yard passing day in their NFL starting debut.
I mean, you can't ask for numbers better than that. I mean, he had the 2 picks. I guess you could take those away, but other than that, I mean, that's almost a perfect game. It's I know I saw how many passing yards did Patrick Mahomes have last night?
Not that many. Not anywhere near that many.
Did you see? I don't know if you saw, there was a guy who put money on what the kid's name. I don't even remember. Mike White, right? Mike White. Someone put money on Mike White to have the most passing yards of the week, and that man made a pretty penny on that bet after Patrick. I think Patrick Mahomes is really obviously Daniel Jones, but I don't think he was too worried about Daniel Jones hitting 405. But congrats to that guy, congrats to Mike White, and congrats to the New York Jets, who just moved ahead of Miami for 3rd place in the AFC East, which is even more depressing to say than it is to live, I think. But no, the Jets stepped it up. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't know what happened to them there. I mean, they've been a hot team this year. You still put up 31 points, but their defense apparently was not able to have any answers for Mike White.
Well, wait a minute. You mean not able to have any answers? Speaking of answering, can you figure out what the heck happened on that 3rd down penalty, or maybe a phantom penalty if you're in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the refs have been a hot topic this entire season. There's been some atrocious calls, and that was absolutely one of them. But at the end of the day, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan and you're blaming the ref for that call against the New York Jets, you've got to take a look in the mirror, because if you're really getting upset that one terrible call, as terrible as it was, and of course it should have never happened, and whatever, but you're playing the New York Jets. You're not only are you playing the New York Jets, you're playing the New York Jets with a quarterback who's never started a game in the NFL. I don't want to hear a single thing from Cincinnati Bengals fans about how the refs cost them that game, because you should not be, as good as that football team is, there should be no way in HE double hockey sticks that you should be allowing the referees to sway a game against the New York Jets. I mean, Bengals fans, yeah, you can get upset over the call, but you should be more upset with your team for allowing Mike White to put 405 yards on your defense. That's all I got to say.
Maybe you should have done a better job in stopping Michael Carter, because it's not like the Jets
Yeah.
have got a great wide number one receiver. You don't have Jamal Chase or T. Higgins.
Yeah, Michael Carter definitely had himself a day. I'm and with some bye weeks going on, I know a couple fantasy players might have thrown him in there without much other option, and he definitely rewarded them.
And then how about backup quarterbacks? How about Trevor Siemian? Yeah, when I saw Trevor Siemian play, I'm like, wait a minute. I remember him placing Peyton Manning in Denver, and I'm like, what the?
Yeah, I didn't even know Trevor Siemian was on the Saints roster, to be honest, until I had a special event at work on Sunday. I did not get to watch much football, but I was able to come home and watch that game. And I'll tell you what, when I saw Trevor Siemian was throwing the football, I was like, I honestly thought he was still with Denver. I didn't even know where he was. I mean, but shout out to him. I mean, Jameis Winston goes out early and he comes in and steps up. I mean, I think the defense obviously deserves a lot of credit in that game. And honestly, I can't remember, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I cannot remember a worse 2-minute drill by Tom Brady that I have ever seen. I mean, they had an opportunity. Everyone knows you can't give Tom Brady time on the clock in a one-score football game. And I think everyone was thinking it. Everyone was saying it when the New Orleans Saints scored that scored to go ahead. I mean, you got to think it's Tom Brady. I mean, there's no way Tampa's going to lose this game. I mean, bad passes, incompletes. Players can't stay in bounds when they do can't get out of bounds when they do catch the ball. And honestly, a really bad throw by Tom Brady on the interception. It was a bad read. It was double coverage. The safety made a great play on the ball, but the ball wasn't there. He threw it past him. He threw it a little. He let him a little too much, and I put that on Tom Brady. It was a terrible 2-minute drill, and they really couldn't get anything going. And credit to the Saints defense. They stepped up, made a play, won the game. But, it was definitely surprising for me to see Tom Brady not be able to march that team down the field, because we've seen him do it so many times.
I mean, but you look at it, the Saints have his number, a lot like what happened when Tom Brady played in Miami as a Patriot. It seems like some teams have got your number. I mean, New Orleans is 3-0 against Brady in the regular season. Now, Saint fans would say, well, he won the playoff game when Breeze and the Saints committed 4 turnovers. So maybe you get the Saints in the playoffs, and then Tom Brady turns back into Tom Brady, and Drew Brees, or now probably Taysom Hill with Winston out for you,
Right.
commits 4 turnovers. But some teams have got your number, and the Saints might not be the sexiest team offensively, but of course with Kamara. Now we'll see if the Saints can add a wide receiver in the next 75 minutes, because Odell Beckham might make the Saints a legitimate force in the NFC. But I mean, the Saints, for losing a Hall of Fame quarterback, are not doing that bad this year.
Right. Yeah, and they don't even have Michael Thomas. I mean, the Saints team, like you said, I mean, they might be in the market for a wide receiver. And Michael Thomas has been sitting on that IR spot. I mean, I know a lot of fantasy players drafted him late in drafts, stashed him in their IR spot, and are just kind of patiently waiting or impatiently waiting for him to make his return. But it hasn't happened yet. It seems like he's getting a little closer, but obviously that week 6 mark hit and he wasn't activated. So, he's obviously not quite ready yet. But I mean, with a talent like Michael Thomas, you have to think he can only help the offense. So, they've definitely got an interesting rest of the season, especially with Jameis Winston on IR. Whether it's Siemian, whether it's Taysom Hill, it's definitely going to be a interesting New Orleans Saints offense for the rest of the season. But I'm hoping that offense runs through Kamara like it has in so many times in the past. But they will definitely be a team to look for in the next hour and 15 minutes of this trade deadline. And I keep looking at my phone to see if there's any Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter tweets. I haven't seen much.
Negative.
Yeah, nothing going on yet. But whether they make a play there or they look for a free agent, obviously with Michael Thomas coming in, they've got some reinforcements or potential for reinforcements. So that Saints team could be a different team by the end of the season, but we'll see. I mean, they got Brady's number this week, and but it's hard to have Brady's number too often. So I think Tampa Bay will be okay.
Yeah, I still think Tampa is in that Super Bowl bubble.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely, I mean, the NFC is definitely tough this year. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams in the NFC. I mean, I don't know if Tampa can get past the Rams. I hope that's the NFC Championship game because the Rams getting an opportunity.
I could get one better. How about Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, part dose?
Yeah, I mean that would be fun too. I'm not gonna lie, but I think the Rams trying to get revenge on Tom Brady for the Super Bowl that he had in New England would be a fun one to watch too. There's like we said, there's a lot of competition in the NFC. I think especially a lot more than on the AFC. So it'll definitely be a fun second half of the season to keep our eye on and see who's really stepping out as the rest of the season goes. But it is time, our newly adored favorite segment of the week. It's rant time, and Dylan has a rant on two specific teams this week. So, Dylan, floor is yours.
Yeah, probably the most interesting game for fantasy football players on Sunday was the Eagles-Lions game, and be honest with you, I'm pissed about it. I was so pissed about that game. Who used Jalen Hurts in a fantasy football or DFS lineup on Sunday?
I did.
Who used Kenneth Gainwell?
I did.
Who used Dallas Goedert? Well, Dallas Goedert was okay. Who used DeAndre Swift?
Not me, but I know a lot of people did. You did.
Yes. Who used TJ Hawkinson? Well, actually, Hawkinson was fine.
Hawkinson did okay. I had him.
What happened on Sunday with Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell, and DeAndre Swift was absolutely embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely tilted. Jalen Hurts threw 14 freaking passes in 2021. I know the Eagles ran the ball 46 times. Trust me, the Lions couldn't stop you or me running the ball right now. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 14 times. And you know who scored the Eagles touchdowns on Sunday? Boston Scott and Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Boston Scott and Jordan Howard. So all the Kenneth Gainwell owners were pissed. All the Jalen Hurts owners thinking he was going to run in for or throw a touchdown. And I don't know if you saw this in the first quarter. They asked Jalen Hurts would have thrown a passing touchdown, but yet they called the player short. So then the Eagles ran it in the next play. So it really just put me on tilt. It's really annoying when you make a line that you make a lineup you like, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts is not scoring points. I mean, Jalen Hurts threw the ball for 103 yards and got 71 rushing yards. It's really annoying when you put in a great lineup thinking it's going to win, and all of a sudden it doesn't because he's not scoring the touchdowns. I mean, I play a lot of DFS, and Jalen Hurts was my quarterback in catch and tournaments, thinking they're playing the Detroit Lions this weekend. Mm-hmm. The Detroit Lions with like one of the worst, if not the NFL's worst run defense. Jalen Hurts made the most sense of quarterback. He was the catch game lock. Everybody used him, and he pooped his pants. He pooped his pants.
Yeah, you gave a lineup to me. You're like, hey, if you want to win some money this week, I've got a daily fantasy lineup for you. And Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Gainwell were two players, I believe, that were in that lineup. And
actually, until 11:30, but and then Kenneth Gainwell, everybody picked up Kenneth Gainwell in fantasy football.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, gets to scoring the touchdowns. Not Boston, not Jalen Hurts, not Kenneth Gainwell. but Boston's got a Jordan Howard. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And I don't want to hear anything about Jordan Howard either, because that man was a bum when he came to Miami too. So of course he's scoring touchdowns in Philadelphia. But yeah, no, that was, and honestly, I told you before the Sunday slate, I really thought Detroit was going to win that football game. I had a weird feeling that Detroit was going to, because Detroit's looked pretty decent. It's just they can't pull the game out, and I don't have too much faith and confidence in the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously Miles Sanders owners have been pissed all year because they just don't know how to handle the running back room. It's the weirdest committee I've ever seen. They just and Miles Sanders seems to be the most talented running back in that backfield room, but they don't want to give him the ball for some reason. So I was confident in Dan Campbell's ability to outcoach Peterson, right? What's his first name?
He's not
the Eagles coach. They're irrelevant anyway. But I really thought Detroit was going to pull out their first win this week. So not only did Jalen Hurts and all of these Eagles fantasy players not do anything, but they also took the win away from my bragging rights on that prediction. So screw you, Eagles.
And you know what was the biggest tilt on Sunday? DeAndre Swift, because like an hour and a half before lineup lock, Jamal Williams was ruled inactive, and I wanted DeAndre Swift in like all my DFS lineups.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking he's going to get all the work, score all the touchdowns, and then all of a sudden, he did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. He ran the ball 12 times for 27 yards, really. And then I'm watching like the game in the red zone in the third quarter. I saw DeAndre Swift get a pass, and all of a sudden he fumbled the freaking football. And I'm like, "Oh, you kidding me?" "Oh, you kidding me?"
Yeah, definitely not a great game for fantasy purposes, for really anything. I'm like I said, I didn't watch too much football this weekend, but I'm glad I did not watch that game. That's for sure.
I would have been tilted. So I would have been tilted watching that game if I were DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, or Kenneth Gainwell fantasy football. And that game would have tilted me for all Halloween. I may have eaten all my trick-or-treating candy before the game would have been over.
Yeah. It's, the good thing about fantasy is there's always next week. There's always a chance to reset, move your lineups around, get players in off bye. I am very excited to have Hollywood Brown come back into my starting lineups in the leagues I have him, because he's been a stud this year. It's that's the great thing about fantasy football is you can move right past it, especially in daily. And you loved your daily fantasy. That's a fresh start every week. So you didn't hit this week, Dylan, but there's always next week to see if you can put together the perfect lineup.
Hey, I somehow beat you last week.
You did. It was close. I had a couple games in on you, and I saw when I got off work that you ended up beating me by 2 points. But congratulations on that. That wasn't the only fantasy matchup I lost by 2 points this week. Amari Cooper's late touchdown. Well, after he had his hamstring being worked on with a softball on the sidelines, I should have done this for a rant, because this one really pissed me off. I'm watching this Cowboys Vikings game. I see Amari Cooper on the sideline. I'm winning by 2 points. First of all, I was winning by 14. He makes that juggling catch that the defensive back should have intercepted, and it bounced right into his hands. Makes another catch down the sideline. Goes off the field for 3-4 plays working on his hamstring. I'm thinking I'm good to go. Comes in for 1 play and catches a touchdown pass. I lose by 2. So there's a mini rant for you. I hate Amari Cooper this week. I hate the Dallas Cowboys this week because I was playing the second place team and I was in third place, and I would have taken him over for second place. So mini rant right there. Screw you, Amari Cooper. Screw you, Dallas Cowboys. You cost me in my big money fantasy league this week. So
whoop, whoop, whoop.
We got a little 2-for-1 rant special there on our Tuesday episode. It's 2-for-1 Tuesday here at the Big D podcast. But
so will there be any Kenneth Gainwell in your fantasy lineups this weekend?
Not at all. Kenneth Gainwell will be hitting waivers as soon as my waiver request process tomorrow. So You can say sayonara to Kenneth Gainwell on my fantasy teams.
Avita saying it like I'm trying to think of what the other languages would be for goodbye.
Yeah. Adios, ciao, sayonara, all of them and any of them. Kenneth Gainwell will no longer be ongoing to a championship.
Oh my rosters.
Yeah. So
thanks for hopping on, Alex, and we wish you Dolphins well against the Texans this weekend. And oh yeah, my Jags get the Buffalo Bills this weekend. Oh gosh, we're gonna get killed.
yeah, thank you, Dylan. Like I said, always a pleasure to be here. It's always fun talking to you about the football slate. Fins up. Good luck to your Jaguars.
Yeah, we need it this weekend. We'll be like 18-point dogs against the Bills.
Yeah.